3, 2, we are live.
Good evening to each and everyone from the Stories to team. It's a big welcome to all of you. This is Story to Talk to, and it's a pleasure for me to introduce Sonal Modi, our speaker for today's evening. Sonal Modi resume will run into pages, but I'm going to give a very small brief about her, and it will give you a glimpse about what the kind of person she is. She's a writer, a linguist, a social worker. She's an eminent speaker. She's a celebrity of Gujarat and of our country. Sonal is from Kaira district, Gujarat, and studied in Balasinor. Her parents are doctors, and she saw them working hard and caring for the sick and needy, and that's where her values of life come from. She saw that the sick and the needy require help and service, and her initial stage of being a child in that family brought in these qualities later on in her life. Her primary education also was from the prestigious CN Vidyalaya, Ahmedabad, but most importantly, she has been a high achiever, gold medalist in geography, gold medalist in BA, in MA in English literature, and the 19th rank in the Gujarat board. An excellent command in Gujarati, English, Hindi, and Sanskrit. She is a true linguist. She's supported by Dr. Nishit Shah, a doctor by profession, and who is with her right through her life, being with her and encouraging her in all walks of life. What a lovely couple. She started her career as a school teacher, becoming a lecturer in geography, and then Providence played the trick. She met Sudha Murthy in 1999, and there she got a little journey into writing and translation. She was already a freelance and writer and a columnist in newspapers in Gujarati, but well-known translations have been APJ Abdul Kalam's Nobility in Leadership. Her book, Ye Yadgar Sanj, is an original work of her short stories. Now, look at the range of translations she has done, from management to children's books, to inspirational books, to motivational books. And the most important is Sudha Murthy's books in Gujarati have sold more than Sudha Murthy's original English works. So that speaks volumes of the kind of translation that she has done. Her initial stages of her life when she was with her parents about the sick and needy, that brought in her constant strive to help the poor and the untrodden. And so there she started working with Visamo, Eklavya Education Trust. On her own, she supports various charities like the Sonal Foundation. She's got the Umang Senior Citizen, and you name it. There are so many other centers where she promotes and she helps her charity works are there. Now, if I were to just mention a few awards, not all, just a few, she got the Sakhi Stree Shakti Award from a well-known Gujarati magazine called Sakhi. On Women's Day 2006, she was honored by our then Chief Minister, Dr. Shri Narendra Bhai Modi. Then from the Chamber of Commerce to the Amity Business School, and a whole lot of clubs and activities surrounding her were lots of awards and accolades. Most importantly was the Gujarat Sahitya Academy for her contribution to Gujarati literature. Sonal, we welcome you to Stories to Tell, and we are so happy that you are there to present a lovely discussion about how you have translated your stories. Your first attempt of writing was a love letter. That's what I came to know. Looking back, did you feel you had it in you? Because you started with that. Did you have a dream to become an author?
Not at all. I hope you can hear me, all of you.
Yes.
So So it was when I met Sudhamurthy, actually more long before I met her, she had written there was a story about her in Sevi magazine, which I read, and I wrote to her. I wrote to Sevi magazine and sent a sari to Sevi magazine because she had stopped buying anything for herself after her Kashi Yatra when she was just 42. So I wondered, I did not know that woman, but I wondered that this kind of things also can happen, that at the age of 42, a person decides not to buy anything for herself. I mean, today we see every day one Amazon box coming to our house. Saris, purses, shoes, I mean, makeup. We need so many things. And this woman has stopped buying for herself. So I just, on the address of Savvy magazine, I so just sent one sari that she must be going out also, and she will use it. And to my utter surprise, and I was so surprised to receive an email from her with the photograph in that sari. So humble. And then we were in touch, and she called me for some of her programs in Bangalore and Pune. And at that time, I came to know her much better. And when she came to Gujarat, there was a meeting in Gujarat Samachar, and I just accompanied her because I had the car and the driver. So Tantri Shri, वहाँ के जो तंत्री थे, he just asked her that, ma'am, so many of your articles are appearing in various magazines, and why don't we get them translated into Gujarati? We have a forge of translators, army of translators sitting here. So she said, no, I mean, I don't mind. I don't have any other expectation, but let Sonal do the work. So I was aghast because, I mean, I had never written anything in my life, just apart from some love letters to my husband, which I told her because email ka jamana nahi tha. There was no there was no WhatsApp. So
Right.
I just told her, okay, Sudha, when we have many good writers in Gujarati, I also named some. And she said, no, Sonal, because you know me as a person. I said, I've never written anything, just some love letters. She said, if you really want to write well, write them like love letters, not with a pen, but with heart.
You are.
And बस वही उनका आशीर्वाद मिल गया, and I started my journey.
Excellent. What a lovely start from a few letters of emotions and feelings and then into translation. In fact, Sudhamurthy, how I taught my grandmother to read other stories is about retrospection and talking about Krishnaka. That is a story about her grandmother, whom she sort of helps to read. Then Old Man and His Dog talks about the faces of human value. The Magic Drum and other stories talks about a princess who will marry a person only if he cannot answer those questions. And then grandma's big stories, it's about the village and a little bit of fantasy and fairy tale like, where it talks about a queen who talks about silk, and then a princess with the layers of onions, and of course the angry bear and other stories. But what was interesting is because the repertoire that you have about all these kind of various books, right from Shobha De, who talks about speed post with 6 letters to 6 children, about values in 21st century, ways of looking at life. And then comes management books about Jagdish Joshi, who also writes children's books. And then you have the most important, I thought, was nobility in leadership. And what better than Abdul Kalam, whom we really venerate and is a revered person in our country. And then you come straight to Rashmi Bansal, who talks about a non-fiction book with 20 entrepreneurs, and she also discusses with them. But then you have some very interesting book like Wise and Otherwise, which your journey has been, your first time, your name in print. Do tell us about the first book you translated. I heard it was Wise and Otherwise, and then you wrote Manni Baat. Can you narrate one of the stories in short for us?
Wise and Otherwise is Sudhamurthy's first book. It is like there are some stories, real life stories. She does a lot of social work, and all her experiences are narrated in the form of stories in Wise and Otherwise. So that was the book I translated as Manni Baat. long before Prime Minister ji started Man Ki Baat. It was given the name Manni Baat by Bhavan Bhai Kachhi, who is still writing in Gujarat Samachar. I just asked her, Bhavan Bhai, they are going to start this column. आप कुछ नाम suggest करो. He suggested Manni Baat, and that's how I started. The column was very popular. It became so popular that sometimes I got so many letters from America also that ma'am, you are, I mean, और मेरा नाम कहीं पे नहीं आता था. It was Manni Baat और नीचे आता था Sudha Murthy.
Okay.
So Sonal Modi was not even known. Who was Sonal? Who is translating? Nobody knew. So many people wrote to even Sudha Murthy. Just गुजरात समाचार के एड्रेस पे लेटर्स आते थे, इसलिए मुझे मिलते थे कि मैडम, why don't you get these letters translated into English, because our children can read.
Right.
So sometimes I would ask Sudha Murthy that should I answer this letter, that these are already translated from English only, and she said no, let the mystery remain. Some people would ask me that, ma'am, you are, I mean, thinking that they are writing to Sudha Murthy, that ma'am, you are born in Karnataka, you have studied at Bombay, worked at Jamshedpur. How come your Gujarati is so good? You are like Kaka Sahib Kalelkar, you are like Father Wallace. So I would ask Sudha Ben whether I should answer such letters. She would again say, no, let the mystery remain.
Right.
But sometimes letters would come like that. पाटन से एक लेटर आया था, मैम हमारे घर में तो सुबह में जब आती है गुजरात समाचार की संडे की पूर्ति, तो हम लोग तो एकदम वी आर एवरीबडी वांट टू रीड योर आर्टिकल. 1-2 पेज भर के इतना सारा अच्छा लिखा था मेरे बारे में, आई मीन सुधा जी के बारे में, आई वुड से. एंड देन दे सेड दैट, एंड देन दे आस्क्ड धीरे से नीचे लास्ट पैराग्राफ में, मैम, Infosys company is going to give bonus of 3 shares for 1 share. Should we buy at this price? तो मेरा एकदम I just ऊपर से मैं एकदम नीचे आ गई. तब से नक्की किया कि कुछ भी हो जाए ऊपर नहीं चढ़ने का. You have to remain within your means and do your work silently.
Yeah. So, Sonal, can you narrate one, sort of read some from Manni Baat in Gujarati?
In Gujarati, is it okay? Because I think some people are...
Or you can read it in English. That would be better.
Okay. Yeah. So this is a story. I like it because it happened in front of me. Long back when Sudhaji came to Gujarat, she loves to go for movie, but at that time there was only one movie going on. So we went to Law Garden. I took her to Law Garden, and there was, वहाँ पर जो मिलता है सब कुछ, घाघरा और सब गुजराती item, jewelry. Yeah. And we were going from one shop to another shop. She liked a small purse, about 100 rupees. So just like a typical Gujarati, I told her that don't buy. We'll get more like this and we'll bargain. So I started bargaining with that lady, and she started talking to that lady. That where you come from, since how many years you are doing this work. Then there was a small child with that girl, she was also about 19-20, and there was a small child in her shop. So whose son is this? Then she says, "Ben maro babo che, maro gako che." Your son? Yes. Aaj એની પહેલી વરસગાંઠ છે બેન. Today is his first birthday. કે તમારા આશીર્વાદ આપો. એટલે that's how it started. And then I'll read a little bit. And Sudha Murthy just before coming to Ahmedabad, she had gone to a big 5-star birthday party of 1-year-old kid in Bangalore. कोई software giant का grandson. And she just probably remembered that birthday party and this child's birthday. And something happened to her. So the last paragraph of that book I'm reading first in English little bit and then in Gujarati, because we didn't buy that purse, but we were just going after I told her that we'll bargain, आगे बहुत मिलेंगे ऐसे पर्स तो and then she must have started talking, and I was translating everything so that the girl should understand. So she said, 1 minute. Huh. She opened her purse, Sudha Murthy, and gave 100 rupees note to that small child. So पर्स तो नहीं लिया मगर ऐसे ही तो she asked immediately the mother came running behind me, please take your money back, we are not beggars, we don't know you, why should we take your money? I could see the anger on her face. I said, it's not for you. Today is his birthday, your child's birthday. We have a custom. Whenever a child completes a year, we should give a small gift. I talked to you for past 5 minutes and I know you. So I'm giving this money to your child as a blessing. Don't refuse. Sudha Murthy ne bola. By this time, her anger had cooled. In a minute, her eyes brightened and her smile came back. I turned and I was about to walk on. She caught my right hand and gave me that purse, which I had liked. I was shocked. I resisted accepting it. Are you returning what I have given to the baby as a gift? No, Ben. I am really amazed about the whole thing. Many customers come to our shop, but it is always totally business. They ask the price and they bargain. After they give the money, they take the packet, don't even turn back, and they just turn back and go away. Not even once has anybody talked to us like human beings. The paragraph is little long, so I don't want to complete. God is and in the last paragraph she says that today I felt so nice that someone who is not from my place, who does not know our language, who is unknown to us, is blessing my baby on his first birthday. It is not our duty to respect the lady within our capacity.
Right.
That girl says, God has not given me enough money to fill this empty purse, but I pray that God will shower enough money on you to fill up many purses.
Wonderful, wonderful. And that you translated into Gujarati then.
Yeah, so I will just tell you now as you know the story, I'll read the whole last paragraph.
Yeah.
હવે બાઈ કઈ ઠંડી પડી after I told her that this money is not for પર સ્મિત અને આંખમાં ચમક પાછી આવી સહેજ પાછી વળીને મારું ગમતું પર્સ લઈને ફરી મારી પાસે આવી મારો હાથ પકડીને પર્સ મારા હાથમાં જ આપી દીધું હું સ્તબ્ધ થઈ ગઈ શું બોલું ગરીબાઈની ગરિમા તો જુઓ તરત જ સ્વસ્થ થઈ મેં તેને કહ્યું તું મારા પૈસા પાછા મળે છે ના બેન હોતું હશે તમે મોટા માણસે મારી હંગાથે જે વાતો કરી તેનું જ મને કૌતુક થાય છે. I have tried to use Kutchi language, not typical Gujarati.
Right.
Because she is from Kutch.
Right.
અહીં મારી દુકાને કઈ કેટલું લોક આવે બસ ધંધાની જ વાત કરે પેલા ભાવ પૂછે રગઝગ કરે પૈસા હાલે ચાલતી પકડે કોઈ મારા વાલા પાછા વળે જોતાય નથ અમે માણાની જાત છીએ જાનવરની જેમ વર્તે બેન અમે કેટલી મહેનત કરી રોટલો રળીએ છે કેવામાં રહીએ છે કોઈ પૂછતુંય નથ તમે એક એવા જોયા કે આજ પહેલી વાર અમને માણાના અવતારનો અભરખો પૂરો થયો આ મારા તરફથી નથી હાલતી હો બેન મારો ગગો તમને હાલે છે તમ તો રહ્યા પરદેશી અમને જાણોય નહીં અમારી ભાષા ન સમજો ને તમારા ગગાને આજે આશીર્વાદ આલ્યા ને હું વાલા હું તમને બીજું તો શું આલું આ પાકીટ ભરવા જેવડા રૂપિયા તો મારી પાસે નથ બેન પણ મારા પ્રભુજીને માતાજીને કહું કે તમારા ખજાના કદી ખાલી ન કરે આટલું બોલતા તો બાઈ ગળગળી થઈ ગઈ મેં પાકીટ પ્રેમથી લઈ લીધું ખરેખર હું માનવી માનવ થાઉં તો ઘણું એટલું જ યાદ રાખીએ તો બીજા સત્કાર્યો ન કરીએ તો પણ ચાલે.
Beautiful, beautiful, Sonal. I think the nuances are so fantastic, and it brings out the essence in both the languages so beautifully. And that's why Man Ki Baat has been such a popular column and book. I think it's really sold quite a bit. 1 lakh.
23rd edition.
That's right. So. And, more than 1 lakh of copies, yes.
More than that, yes.
So fantastic out there with all those books there, and more to come with the same stories. And that's been really wise, that's what I was thinking about looking at that story, where so much of wisdom also comes out of these stories. Sonal, I have a question. What do you look at when you are writing and translating? There's translation and there's transliteration. How do you bring in the nuances? Because, here is a story where most of it comes from Karnataka, and here we are in Gujarat. How do you bring those subtle nuances? Like just now, you just narrated a little part of it in Kutch. How do you sort of, camouflage the nuances of language?
For translation, it is very aptly said that it is like putting perfume from one bottle to another bottle. इसमें fragrance should not fragrance उड़ नहीं चाहिए, निकल नहीं चाहिए, और perfume थोड़ा spill भी नहीं होना चाहिए.
Right.
So that is the best kind of translation. What I have tried to do is to add some flavor of Gujarati literature, Gujarati Ruti Prayog, Gujarati Kahavato, and some Sanskrit shloka, but never to impress my reader. I have never done it to impress my reader. For example, Sudha Murthy has written a beautiful story on, it's called Yadi Mein Shadi.
Yes.
It's about marriages usually. तो उसमें मैंने एक संस्कृत श्लोक डाला है, which is very interesting, that कन्या वरयते रूपम माता विक्तम पिता श्रुतम बांधवा कुलम इच्छन्ति मिष्टान्नम इतरे जना. उसका मीनिंग होता है कन्या क्या देखती है, लड़के में रूप अच्छा दिखना चाहिए, मेरी फ्रेंड्स के आगे मेरा हैंडसम दिखना चाहिए मेरा हस्बैंड. माता विक्तम पैसा,
हाँ.
उसके घर में नौकर चाकर है कि नहीं, पैसा है कि नहीं. पिता श्रुतम, पिता देखते हैं कि पढ़ा हुआ है कि नहीं, तो कुछ भी कर सकेगा. बांधवा कुलम इच्छन्ति, बांधवा भाई बहन क्या देखते हैं कि वो कैसे घर में रहते हैं, कुल कैसा है उनका, हम वहां जाएंगे तो कैसे लगेगा, हम वो वहां यहाँ आएंगे तो कैसे लगेगा. एंड मिष्ठानम, इतने लोगों को कोई किसी से कुछ है, सबको लड्डू चाहिए, खाना पीना अच्छा खिलाओ, सब खुश होते हैं. तो सुधा मूर्ति व्हेन शी वाज टोल्ड दैट आपने तो ये श्लोक नहीं लिखा है, ये कहाँ से आया, तो शी वॉज एक्चुअली वेरी हैप्पी. सो आई एम सो हैप्पी कि मुझे मूल जो लेखक है वो भी ऐसे मिले हैं कि हु आर सो कॉन्फिडेंट अबाउट देयर ओन राइटिंग. फॉर एग्जांपल बोरसलिनी पानखर करके गुजराती में एक नॉवेल है, which is adaptation, which is a translation of Sudha Murthy's Falling of Bakula Tree. Yes. Which has outsold her own version because her novel has it does not have happy ending. Right. And I with her permission, I have changed last 3 chapters and made it a happy ending.
Right.
ये सब करती हूँ.
That is the ethos of the Gujarati culture and the happiness. We like to share love, give love, and all the things that is share our happiness with people around us. Wonderful. And I think that is why you have this glow on your face. And I just love you for that. Sonal, your proceeds of the book goes to charity. I know the number of books that you've written, all that money goes to the various charities that you've got. How did this development take place in your life? Which book made that thought process? Because as a child, you've always been around doctors who always talk about service. And here is our group of people, the stories to tell, as lots of doctors who are doing valuable work in their field. And so many times they sort of provide that free service to those who don't have, or for a friend in need. So how did that thought process come about that all this money should go? Because, looking at the repertoire of the books that you've written, that would mean a lot. But how did this thing happen?
Actually, as you said rightly, I seen my parents doing a lot of charity work in village when I was growing up. Secondly, when we started making little money from the, I think we came back from US in '83 and started our own business, and we decided that from very first day, first check of every checkbook should go for charity. It was a small amount, but it brought in some regularity, some shist, some discipline in giving back to society. So आज भी वो चालू रखा है कि first check of only the amount has increased, but that regularity and discipline came from the very first day. Then came in my life came when Sudha Murthy and Narayan Murthy, they came for my first book Manni Baat Ka launch function. I'm still surprised at how Narayan Murthy agreed to come, because I've hardly seen him anywhere near Sudha Murthy, especially at book launches.
Right.
So he also came, and at the peak of his career.
Right.
In 2001. 2000, I think 99 or 2000.
99 is when you met her.
Yeah. So it was when they came, I saw a couple not looking at each other, but in the same direction of
Right.
social upliftment. And I decided that, कुछ भी हो जाए, मगर whatever I'm going to earn, I never knew I will make so much money out of sale of books or royalty or giving lectures. So I just decided at that point, while the function was on, that all the proceeds from my books will go for charity. In that function, Narayan Murthy ji said a very beautiful shloka that Sateshu Jayate Shura Sahasreshu cha Pandita वक्ता दस सहस्त्रेषु दाता भवति वानवा. उसका मीनिंग बहुत बढ़िया है कि 100 में से एक आपको शूरवीर मिल जाएगा. 100 लोग खड़े कर दो तो एक होगा जो किसी के साथ भी आई मीन ही विल हैव दैट इन हिम. सहस्त्रेषु च पंडित, 1000 में से एक पंडित आपके जैसा मिलेगा. वक्ता 10 सहस्रेषु, अच्छा वक्ता 10,000 में एक मिल सकता है, मगर दाता भवति वानवा, दाता किसी को कुछ दे सके ऐसे लोग बहुत कम मिलते हैं. I mean, and देना is not in terms of money. I never say that. मेरे एक हमारे विसामो में एक बहन है, she is 91. Yes. But every month she is visiting 5 elderly people. Right. With some good nasta. Right. That is nice. Also, वो भी सेवा है. So absolutely. So I think that's what, that these are these small things which make life meaningful and rich in, at the end of your life, when you look at and you sort of a quick flashback, there are such lovely moments for you to look back into. I've heard you've learned computers and you've learned Swahili. You even had a music consultant for your book. Why did you venture into this? Which stories made it happen? And how did you bridge the gap of doing this? Can you narrate the story in brief? And which story was that? For Swahili, I mean, it was recently in lockdown only. I was translating Jai Mehta's father, Mahendra Bhai Mehta, like Juhi Chawla's father-in-law's book. He has spent all his life in East Africa. They are the sugar kings of East Africa, Mr. Mahendra Bhai Mehta. Unki English book hai Call of the Peacock. And I have translated it as More Bani Thangat Kare. So for that, in that there are so many Swahili words because he spent all his life in Africa, East Africa. So online मैंने course किया क्योंकि for example I had to write about Gorangoro. So Gorangoro National Park starts with N. If I really didn't know how to pronounce it, how would I write in Gujarati? It doesn't make sense to my readers if I write wrong. Then for Priyanka Chopra's, आप unmute हो जाइए मीनाक्षी बहन. You are muted. हाँ. So for Priyanka Chopra's autobiography Unfinished, when I started reading it, actually that was the only book, one of the books rather, that I really wanted to do, and I had read it before even publisher sent me. पहले 3 चैप्टर से ही मुझे पता चल गया कि निक जोनास, दुनिया भले ऐसा मानती हो कि निक जोनास को लॉटरी लग गई, प्रियंका चोपड़ा मिल गई, मगर एक्चुअली प्रियंका चोपड़ा थिंक्स दैट उसको लॉटरी लगी है. उसको इतना म्यूजिक में इंटरेस्ट है, एंड स्पेशली hip hop music, American hip hop, because when she was in school in 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, she was in USA, and at that time that music was very popular. Right. And she was too much into hip hop music, the dressing, everything. Whatever you are seeing today is the result of that exposure in her. So मैंने बॉम्बे में एक अजय अतुल के ग्रुप के साथ काम करते हैं, शिंदे, चैतन्य शिंदे, उसके साथ बात की और he is 23. So मैंने बोला कि पहले आप मुझे, I mean I have to bridge this gap between Priyanka's age, my age, her understanding, her love for music, because I'm only into classical music. I don't really, I mean I like all music, but I'm into Indian classical. So he really sent me some good videos, audios, and I started enjoying. मुझे लगा कि अगर मैं enjoy नहीं करूँगी तो मेरे readers कैसे enjoy करेंगे ये सब.
Right. Wonderful. Andy, I mean, this is like the range, or like, from hip hop music to Swahili. And then I also wanted to ask you, Sonal, you also read non-fiction, Jagdish Joshi's books on management. So there are a lot of books like Dare to Design Your Life, It's Your Business, Make It Big, Sell Like a Great Man, Give Service Like a Madman, and then Businessman's Bhagavad Gita. There's so many of Jagdish Joshi's books. Then you also have one by Sunil Handa and Rashmi Bansal, who also talks about connect the dots and 20 entrepreneurs. So is that because your husband is also an entrepreneur and running a huge big business, that you have got this close connection with entrepreneurs, industrialists, that made you write these non-fiction books in management?
जगदीश जोशी बुक में ऐसे हुआ था कि he is a management trainer basically, and he wrote so many books in English, and most of his crowd, the people who are attending his seminars, they come from Gujarati run companies like Adani's, Ambani's, Shroff's, Patel's. So he had this vision of and the whole set of 7 or 8 books he used to give to all his students, and my publisher, Vandanan publisher in Rajkot, he told me that Sonalben Jagdish Bhai wants to get these books translated because most of his clients are Gujaratis and most of his students are Gujaratis. तो मैंने बोला कि you send me the books, and बहुत ही पुअर बुक्स थे, टू बी वेरी फ्रेंक. उनको भी मैंने बोला था कि आई मीन बिकॉज અમારા ગુજરાતીમાં એવું કહેવાય કે કુવામાં હોય તો હવાડામાં આવે, એટલે કોઈ પણ અનુવાદ કોઈ પુસ્તકને મારે પણ ખરું અને તારે પણ ખરું. હવે આ પુસ્તકમાં કઈ રીતે મારે કરવું મને ખબર નથી પડતી. So many of books, so many of his books I have translated by giving my own examples, by so much input in Gujarati, that after these books came out, so many of his students, they would opt for only Gujarati set. वो free में set देते थे, तो सबको बोलते थे कि आप you have to write down which set you want, English or Gujarati. तो then he also told me, Sonal Ben, मेरा set तो भी रहता है वहां पर, आप सब आपके सेट ले जाते हैं गुजराती वाला, because his students are also, they are also coming from Gujarati medium schools and colleges. So that's, I feel कि बहुत अच्छा लगता है. And Sudhamur, even Rashmi Bansal's books are they are received so well, unbelievable. And one of her books, Meg Danushi Manuniyo, has been given Sahitya Parishad prize. Usually अनुवादित पुस्तक को प्राइज नहीं मिलते हैं, मगर I have been lucky for that.
So we'll see, look at the range: children's book, non-fiction, management, inspirational, motivational. Look at the range of books that you're writing. What would be your favorite passage? Like when you look at all the books, this was one book, this was in English and I translated it in Gujarati, and this is like the best piece of writing that I've done. Can you read that for us? Whichever, you can be a sort of from various books or one of your favorites. If you can read that passage
actually,
for us.
There are so many, and if you ask for most inspirational, it would be Premlata Agrawal's.
Right.
She is, I'll just, one story that I have loved to translate was from Rashmi Bansal's Follow Every Rainbow. Right. Very inspiring stories of 25 women entrepreneurs. Right. And these are not business entrepreneurs. There are sculptors, there are mountain climbers, there are business women, everyone. And in 2011, Premlata Agrawal, at the age of 48, becomes the eldest woman to put tricolor flag अपना एवरेस्ट पे डालने वाली पहली महिला थी. She was running 49th year at that time. So she comes from a very typical Marwadi family from Jamshedpur, and near Darjeeling, went to a Nepali medium school, married at the age of 18, and comes to Jamshedpur. जमशेदपुर में टाटा वालों ने एक माउंटेनियरिंग इंस्टीट्यूट खोल रखी है, and Bachendri Pal is heading that institute, who had already set it and and when she's 35, she's taking her children to some tennis classes या तो कुछ पढ़ने की classes में, and वहां पर बैठे रहने के बजाय ये एक बचेंद्री पाल ने ये जो वहां पर एक स्पर्धा रखी है माउंटेन क्लाइंब करने की, उसमें पार्ट लेती है. She comes third in that spardha, just with no experience, no practice, and she cannot go for taking the prize because she has to go home, feed her mother-in-law, take her mother-in-law to some doctor, और बड़ी सासू माँ भी घर पर है, उनका जैन खाना बनाना है, 6 बजे से पहले उनको खिलाना है. She just goes. When she goes after 3 weeks to get that prize, she looks at all the photos of Bachendri Pal on the top of Everest, and she says that Bachendri ji, મારી બે દીકરીઓ પણ આવા સાહસ કરે એવી મારી ઈચ્છા છે. I want my daughters also to do the same. So Bachendri says that, why daughters, you can also do it. ઉંમર ને સાહસ ને શું લાગે વળગે? There is, I mean, what is the correlation? So પ્રેમલતા ને
you can read that paragraph, it will be lovely.
ગુજરાતીમાં બોલું?
ગુજરાતીમાં વાંચો.
બચેન્દ્રી પ્રેમલતા કહે છે કે શું વાત કરો છો બેન, મને 36 વર્ષ પૂરા થયા, આખી જિંદગી હાઉસવાઇફ તરીકે જીવી છું, મારવાડી બહુ છું, ઘરમાં માથે ઢાંકીને ફરું છું, સાડી સિવાય કાંઈ આજ સુધી કાંઈ પહેર્યું નથી. બચેન્દ્રી પ્રેમલતાને બહુ જ પ્રોત્સાહિત કરે છે. ઘરમાં પહેલા માથે ઓઢવાનું બંધ થાય છે, પછી સલવાર કમીઝ ની છૂટ મળે છે, પછી તો પેન્ટ પણ ચાલુ થાય છે. પતિ સહકાર આપે પણ એક વાક્ય હંમેશ બોલે, તારે જે કરવું હોય તે કર, પણ બા બાપુજીના ભોગે નહીં, તેમની તક વહીવટ સાચવીને કરજે. દરેક ગુજરાતી સ્ત્રીની કે ભારતીય સ્ત્રીની આ ઘર ઘર કઈ કહાની છે જ. એન્ડ એટ ધ એજ ઓફ 48, હવે હું થોડુંક આમાંથી વાંચું છું આ બુકમાંથી. આ બુક જયારે હું જયારે ચેપ્ટર લખતી હતી ત્યારે મેં મારા ભાઈને અહીંયા નિશિતભાઈ છે એમને મેં રાતના ફોન કર્યો હતો, અને he also had tears in his eyes. I still remember. So મારી બંને દીકરીઓ હજુ સ્કૂલમાં હતી. એવરેસ્ટ પર આરોહણની તૈયારી માટે 2-3 મહિના ઘરથી દૂર રહેવું પડે, ખૂબ જ આકરી તાલીમ લેવી પડે. મેં ઘરમાં કોઈને કહ્યું નહીં કે બચેન્દ્રીજીએ મને એવરેસ્ટ આરોહણ માટેની તૈયારી કરવાનું કહ્યું છે. 2004માં કહ્યું હતું. એ પછી એમની મોટી દીકરીના લગ્ન થઈ જાય છે, 7 વર્ષ પછીની વાત છે, અને નાની દીકરી પણ હોસ્ટેલમાં જાય છે. એ વખતે એમણે એમના હસબન્ડને ધીમે રહીને કહ્યું કે કહું છું સાંભળો છો, બચેન્દ્રી ઘણા વખતથી મને એવરેસ્ટ માટે કહે છે, પ્રયત્ન કરવાનું કહે છે, ઘરમાંથી 3-4 મહિના રજા મળે મને, એથી વધારે પણ કદાચ થઈ જાય. હાસ તો એમણે કહ્યું તારે પ્રયત્ન કરવો જ જોઈએ. મને મારા કાન પર વિશ્વાસ ન પડ્યો. મારા સસરા પાસે વાત કરી, એમણે કહ્યું દીકરી તારે જવું જ જોઈએ, જા ફતેહ કર. બસ એ જ પળે મને થઈ ગયું હું સફળ થઈશ. મને 47 વર્ષ પૂરા થયા હતા. બસ પછી તો કહેવું જ શું, મારી સખત ટ્રેનિંગ શરૂ થઈ ગઈ. સવારે જીમ, સાંજે જીમ, જોગિંગ, યોગ, પ્રાણાયામ, એરોબિક કસરત, વેટ ટ્રેનિંગ, દાર્જિલિંગની હિમાલયન માઉન્ટેનિયરિંગ ઇન્સ્ટિટ્યૂટમાંથી ફરીથી એડવાન્સ માઉન્ટેનિયરિંગનો કોર્સ, પ્રોટીન શેક, સલાડ, કઠોળ, તદ્દન સાત્વિક ભોજન અને નિયમિત જીવન. દાર્જિલિંગ કોર્સ કરવા ગઈ ત્યારે ખ્યાલ આવ્યો કે આ કોર્સ કરવા માટે 35 વર્ષની વય મર્યાદા છે. There is a limit of 35 years. I was already 47, પણ મેં ગપ્પુ માર્યું કે હું 35 વર્ષની છું. બસ પછી તો તમારે આ ચોપડીમાં ચોપ્ટર વાંચવું પડે, તમને ખ્યાલ આવે કે જ્યારે 47 વર્ષની ઉંમરે 48 વર્ષની ઉંમરે ટ્રાય કલર લહેરાવે છે એવરેસ્ટ ઉપર, એ પળની જે અનુભૂતિ છે એ તમારા રોમે રોમમાં એક એટલું બધો ઉત્સાહ ભરી દેશે કે એ મારા વાંચવાથી કે તમારે પોતે જ આ વાંચવું પડે, અને એની મને ખાતરી છે કે તમને ભયંકર ઉત્તેજના થશે. અને this has inspired me so much, this woman.
I think there are stories and so many stories like which come into our lives, and these kind of inspirational stories for our children to read, for our general youth to read, that makes it different. Even about gender bias and family values, which sort of instill those kind of ways in which women are not allowed to do so many things. And then you have a very supportive family which says, go ahead, you can do it. And then a little trick here and there to make it happen. I think that's wonderful, and it speaks volumes of the way she has been able to ek sahas, with that sort of inspiration, she's been able to do that. Um, Sonal, I have one big question. Now we've done management books, we've done Sudhamurthy's books, Rashmi Bansal. I would like to ask you, they were also a little foray into children's books. How did that happen? And can you read a passage from the children's book? Because then we'll get a range from like how it happened there.
Now I'm a grandmother of 4. So I think
Quadra mom, grandmom.
yeah. So probably when I was young, in Gujarati, we used to read Mia Fuski, Tabap and Tabapat, Soti Poti, Bakor Patel, so many nice books, but they lack the paper quality, colorfulness,
Yes.
which you really get in English books. So they were excellent stories. We had some great translations by Yashwant Mehta, Sat Samandar Par, and so many Gujarati stories. But the paper quality, and nowadays when children are going to these English medium schools, the textbooks have also improved in quality of paper and everything. How they're going to hold this kind of books in Gujarati if you are going to publish the same kinds of books? So recently I came across very beautifully narrated and very beautifully illustrated books by Priyanka Agrawal Mehta.
Right.
She's Bombay born and Northwestern University educated girl settled in Ahmedabad, and she has written some excellent, her illustrations are extraordinary, the paper quality. So we just happened to, because Sudha Murthy and she met, and Sudha Murthy told her that, why don't you meet Sonal? That's how I met her.
Right.
And I have translated some of her books. What I have done is, for example, there's a beautiful character called Nunu, a girl who is taught how to, some manners, bathing manners, बाहर जाने की मैनर्स, तो नहाने की मैनर्स, तो ये सब मैंने नूनू एंड नन्नन, नन्नन मीन्स गुजराती में नाना, नूनू एंड बाबा, तो नूनू बाबा જાય છે, નૂનુ નન્નન કરે છે, નૂનુ નીની કરે છે. How to sleep, no? पहले आपको ब्रश करना है, पजामा पहनना है, स्टोरी सुननी है, सिंपल स्मॉल थिंग्स. तो मैंने ऐसे थोड़ा किया है. Then I'm doing Sudha Murthy's Gopi Diaries right now.
Right.
And that also is told by a dog in his language.
Okay.
That was even more difficult. So I've tried my level best. Hope people like it.
So would you like to read any of the children's books if you have children's books? All right.
Actually, Priyanka's books are in publication. I cannot say much about it.
Okay, fine. So it's still under copyright. All right, I appreciate that. Yeah, I do appreciate that. Rhonda Brain, the famous The Secret, and then you've got, you've written 2 of her books also, which is like, so 4 books of hers now. So Hero, Power, The Secret, how did that happen? Because it's like, Rhonda Brain herself has been one of those people talkers of the law of attraction. And here comes philosophy and the way you live life. So how did you write Rhonda Brain's books?
Secret पहले आई थी मेरे पास. I just hated it. You would not believe. I told them a lot of money was there in that book because the publisher was international and मुझे कभी इतना पैसा नहीं मिला था. And I always tell कि मैं जो भी काम करती हूँ, I'm doing only for money. Because I can give for charity. That is the only reason. Because मुझे नहीं करने, मैं अभी भी at any given time books आते हैं, मगर I am not taking because I really don't want to get into many books. कि काम बिगड़ जाए, ये वो नहीं करना है. मगर these books, it really involve lot of money. तो पहले तो मैंने ना बोला, फिर उन्होंने बहुत प्रेशराइज किया. And I don't believe in such things, no? Secret में जो भी बोले हैं, I don't believe. I don't believe at all.
Right.
But you would not believe that while I started translating, पहले तो reading तो हो गया, I hated it more. फिर when I started really working on the books, it you cannot imagine the the power of that book has. You cannot imagine.
Right.
यहाँ से यहाँ जितने भी लोग हैं उसमें जिसने भी वो पढ़ा है,
Yes.
it's a very controversial book.
Right.
But I have felt that power.
Right.
And उसके बाद तो उन्होंने power भी किसी और के पास करवाई थी. Then it came to me.
Right.
Because Secret was doing very well in Gujarati. Then came Hero, and then came, I mean, all of them.
Yeah.
So,
like creating your own deja vu by Barry John, like, or Brenda Bren. They talk about different, like, how to be positive, and your life, I would say, like the range of things that you do, and your books reflect your personality about being good humans. Your values come in all the books. And I think it's coming more from the heart than from the mind. Would you agree with that?
yes. मेरे पास तो जो कलम आई वही ट्रांसलेशन के रास्ते आई थी.
Right.
राइटिंग तो मैंने बाद में किया because one fine morning गुजरात समाचार people called me कि they had some problem with शरद ठाकर और बुधवार की बपोरे was their very sorry बुधवार नहीं रणने तरस गुलाबनी was their very popular story thing.
Yes.
Every Wednesday he was writing a story.
Right.
शरद ठाकर डॉक्टर शरद ठाकर. तो आप लिखना चालू कर दो, आपका नाम नहीं आएगा मगर उसमें कॉलम का नाम वही रहेगा. And I had never written in my life. I only सुधा के थोड़े books translate किए थे तब तो. So I started writing stories on my own.
Right.
So
that's again one of your own original works. That's your original works, right?
हाँ, तो ऐसे तो philosophical. I have become very philosophical about this. When I sit for wherever I sit in my own house, 3-4 मोर आ जाते हैं. I don't know from where they come. They are around me. There is some आशीर्वाद of सरस्वती देवी. ऊपर वाले का कुछ आशीर्वाद है. मैं कुछ नहीं हूँ. I think very small person.
No, that's your humility, and your humility with charitable works, your humility in your writing. It sort of expresses in words and phrases. So that's so wonderful. And also, I think I would like the audience now to ask a few questions to you. But I just want to share with the group today that Sonal also is a classical music lover, and she sings like Hindi music and classical, and romantic at heart. So that's what comes in her works as well. So now I think I will open the floor to all the people who are here, or Stories to Team. Please do ask some questions. You can raise your hands, and I think Sonal will answer the questions. Please go ahead. Yes, Dhiren Bhai?
Sonal, an excellent description, but still I would like to know the process of translating. Like, how do you do it? Like, you read the book first, and then what is the process?
At any given point of time, there are some books with me given to me by publishers, sent to me by publishers. So sometimes I just read a book and I decide that I won't be able to do it, or I won't do it. For example, very recently Indra Nuyi's book came to me. उनकी जो biography, autobiography है. So I immediately sent it back. It would have given me a lot of fame, but I felt that it was like a textbook. कोई मैनेजमेंट का ग्रेजुएट वो करेगा तो वो अच्छी भी होगी, और it is for students, not for common people. Whatever I am doing, whatever I want to write, I want it to be useful to people, useful to students sometimes. And right now I'm doing children's books. It's only for my, keeping my grandchildren in the
mind.
So I read that book. And immediately, first of all, if I like the book, એકદમ જ મને એનું title આવી જાય છે મગજમાં. Immediately, if you read some of my titles, I Stay Hungry, Stay Foolish, તો ખભે કોથળોને દેશ મોકળો. If you read Follow Every Rainbow, તો મેઘ ધનુષી માનવનીઓ. God's Own Kitchen નું મેં કર્યું છે. શું કર્યું છે? પ્રભુની પ્રેમ ભરી પ્રસાદી. So something like that. એટલે ટાઇટલ એક મગજમાં આવે તો I feel કે એ બુક મારાથી થશે.
So basically, it's a process where you read the full book, and then what Dhiren Bhai is asking is, like, do you then after that you like go like 3 sentences and then you write in your own words in Gujarati?
Yes, I mostly આખો પેરેગ્રાફ કે આખો પાનું વાંચી અને પછી I put it in my own words, and most of the writers, the original writers, they also prefer that, not the verbatim translation but the transcreation.
Yeah. So it's not transliteration, it's translation. So that's what makes it, and that's why it becomes so popular, because, you know, the nuances of Gujarati language and the richness of the literature comes forth in those books. And that's why it becomes so popular. Yes, I think Manish Bhai is going to ask a question here. Yes, Manish Bhai.
Yes, ma'am. So, like, I was just wondering, me being a vernacular student when I was very young, I used to love those fiction novels written by James Headley Chase. And most of the translation that used to be a very poor quality paperback used to be available on Gandhi Road, Gujarati translations of it.
Right.
And later on, over a period, I came to know that most of those books were translated by Ashwini Bhatt, sir.
Ashwini Bhatt, yes. Ashwini Bhatt.
So my question is, I also used to like those children books of Phantom and Mandrake. And
Right.
we used to have Gujarati versions of it. I don't know who used to translate that, but that would be a good knowledge to know that were there people who used to have exactly same prints and same. I used to collect Phantom books, the comic books. And I had almost 67 books of Phantom in my collection, and all of them in Gujarati, not in English. But I still don't know who used to literally translate it.
But I think you enjoyed those books because it's very apparent. One more collection to your coin collection is a big
very price collection. In that age, I think people used to borrow and not return it back. They used to have that chronology of all the editions of it.
So Manish Bhai, what you have to write, this book is stolen by Manish from Manish Raval, then you will get it back.
Yeah. That was fun, actually.
Right. I think I've got Indra Nityanandam, my very close friend and Sonal's friend as well. And it's because of Indra, I've got Sonal here. Indra, please, your question to Sonal. Indra, we can't hear her. Preeta, can you hear me? Your question, please.
Yeah.
Okay, yes, Indra.
Sorry, Meenakshi, I can't be seen at the moment. I
No
hope
problem.
I can be heard.
Sure.
Yeah, I joined a little late, so I don't know whether this point was discussed. Sonal, about 30, 40 years ago, we didn't even realize that there were translators. So when I read War and Peace or Anna Karenina, I thought I was reading the original. Today, the translator is also appreciated and named. The translator is not anonymous. Do you have a take on that, Sonal?
Even today, I feel that translator is like a 12mo khiladi, 12th player. We are never called on the stage. We are always in the, maybe in the 3rd or 4th row sitting somewhere. But to my utter pleasure and मैं बहुत भाग्यशाली रही हूँ कि मैंने सुधा मूर्ति जी से ट्रांसलेशन की शुरुआत की, and she told so many people, even in big बहुत बड़ी सभा में भी उन्होंने बोला कि मैं मेरे बुक्स के लिए देवकी हूँ, मगर सोनल यशोदा है.
Wonderful.
तो इससे बड़ा कोई अवार्ड नहीं हो सकता. एंड मुझे लगता है कि रिकॉग्निशन एक बार आपको मिलता है तो फिर आपकी जिम्मेदारी तो बढ़ती है, मगर फिर मिलता रहता है.
Right. Wonderful, Sonal. Wonderful.
I think you deserve it, Sonal. Thank you, Meenakshi.
Thank you, Indra. Thank you for introducing Sonal to me. And Indra is a very close, dear friend of mine. So that's how I got to get Sonal over here. Preeta is here. Preeta, your question, please, my dear.
Hello, ma'am. Thank you so much. First of all, I would like to congratulate on this beautiful presentation today by Sonal Modi ji. I'm sorry I'm not visible, but I hope
So,
I'm audible, right?
yes, you are very
So,
much audible. Yes.
before my question, I'd like to just say something in appreciation to Sonal ji
Yeah.
that very few of us realize that for a good translation of a book, it's more difficult than writing an original work because each language has its own nuance and beauty, and writing something in a region in another language altogether, but keeping the essence of the original work and not leaving anything, that is an art in itself. So Sonalji, whatever you have done, you actually deserve double the kudos. uh,
Yes.
Although I don't understand Gujarati fully, but when you are reading excerpts from the Kutchi and Gujarati, your work, your translations, it made sense. And the English version also was like equally good. So the translator who is well versed in each of these languages deserves, I think, more of the accolades than the original writer. So yeah. So for my question to you, I would love to do something that in my my language, Odia, my mother tongue. For like, there are lots of English books or Hindi books which have been translated, but there are so many more contemporary books and stuff which I would love to translate for young readers and others. But how to go about it? It's like finding a good publisher or self-publishing or starting with blogs. Like if you could just guide me, just as a novice, and you
Yeah.
being an expert in this, it would be really
Yeah,
helpful.
this is a very interesting question. First of all, you have to know that copyright का जो कायदा है वो बहुत ही बुरा है, good or bad, whatever, but it is a very strong thing these days. So book has to come from publisher. Publisher has to take the rights first. So unless publisher has the rights, you cannot do anything about it. Or in my case, Manni Baat was a very popular column in Gujarat Samachar. Still, none of the Gujarati publishers, I went to 5 of them, all famous, and also 1 or 2 not very famous. Nobody wanted to take that book for publishing.
Right.
Even if I had Sudha Murthy's permission to publish it as a book, and Gujarat Samachar newspapers publish permission still, because they only run after established names. So to publish for, and when I started, there was nothing like self-publishing and selling on Amazon. But nowadays, it is possible if you have rights. So first of all, you have to get in touch with good publisher in your own language, then show some of your work, whatever you have done. So if you have written some good stories, good poetry, you have to show them. They will immediately come to know whether you are eligible for publishing or not.
Okay.
Otherwise, nobody is going to invest in you unless you are sellable.
Right.
Okay.
I think, Preeta, that's also a very big question which we can address maybe afterwards. You can have a little chat with Sonal. But I think, Sonal, what's really interesting is the world of geography and the world of literature. So you're really making the world go round with your literature. So any last thoughts on what you feel about the world today?
No, I don't get into that big picture, and never. I am, very कलाकार टाइप की व्यक्ति हूँ मैं, जो ये पल हो जाए, ये बंद करके मैं सो जाऊंगी. That's it. And the only thing I care about is my music class. कल सुबह में 6:30 बजे क्लास है, वो नहीं मिस करना है. कल शाम को 6:30 बजे क्लास है, वो नहीं मिस करना है. Everything else can wait. And not whatever clarity of thoughts or whatever work I have done, I hope I can show you around. These are all my books.
Wow. That's a big stack of books.
Yeah, and some of them are lying around here also. So for me, this writing and all, which discipline I have, it's only because of my husband.
Right.
Baki, I'm really not very regular, very disciplined person. So, but I have the Prabhu mein Shraddha hai. And next, whatever I want to do is to retire from writing at this stage. क्योंकि बोलते हैं कि जब आप अपना सब कुछ अच्छा दे चुके हो तब you should just
Right.
call it quits
Yeah.
and spend some more time for my Visamo kids and my other charitable work that
Charitables.
I'm doing.
What a lovely thought. And I think with this, we will probably end our session. And Sonal, it'll be wonderful to have you share your thoughts about the books that you've written, your translations, and how the transliteration and the difference between translation, and then your charitable works across so many areas. That speaks volumes of the person you are. And then most important is your empathy towards people and human service and your humility. After such a huge amount of a body of work, you say, I'm a simple, small person. And I think congratulations. We really appreciate the good work you've done. And I'm really so happy because of Gujarati literature and the amount of works that are in English getting translated in Gujarati for the larger community, maybe rural India, where people can read in Gujarati and maybe not so confident in English, can have a taste of those lovely books. So you're making such a big contribution and an impact to Gujarati literature and culture, and keeping that, the beauty of Gujarat alive. Thank you so much for being with us this evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. It
Thank
was
you.
nice meeting everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You.
Dhiren bhai?
Yes. Yeah. Thank you, madam.
Thank you. I think with this, we will close our session, and we look forward to yet another different kind of a session. Thank you very much, Stories to Team Tell. Thank you.
Thank you.
Rishi, we can now, yes, thank you. Thank you very much.